We are live.
Great. Hello, world. Time for another weekly session of the Nai Temple. I am Nai Coach.
Nye G. Mitchell.
Nige Ben.
And Nige Glenn.
All right. So last time we were talking about something that's going to be an ongoing theme for Nai Temple because of the Nai way, which is personally being a detective. And when Nai are trying to advance their understanding of themselves, when they're trying to accomplish something in the world, or be successful in a relationship, they tend to come from that kind of investigative, detective perspective and way. And so in Naiji Temple, it's also important when you have friends who are Naijis, is they're going to tend to be detective teams working cases together. That can be going to a comic book store and checking out the latest, Captain Marvel. But there's cases to be pursued of all levels of seriousness and import. So that's something we're going to use a lot to give some shape to Naiji Temple. Every temple is going to have some themes to it. I'm sure, for example, like Jaini Temple, there's going to be a lot about creating sacred groves, and that'll be an ongoing discussion point, a major one for them. For Naiji, it's being a detective. Because by being a proper detective, you can approach almost everything you need to do as an IG in the best way possible. All right. So with that said, last time we were talking a bit about it in general, and then I mentioned also a little bit about the specifics of doing that with Moja reads. And we've been doing that with Moja reading, and I'd like to do more of that, maybe some today. But I also want to bring in that everything we do, we use this. So when we discuss things, for example, like personal issues we've had, you may have noticed that whenever we discuss those together, we naturally take an investigative kind of approach, like a human life coach investigator approach, and that's very useful for us. It's the most natural and healthy way for us to discuss even things that are deeply personal to us as like friends and fellow Naiji who are on the same team. You know what I mean? So I think that approach also will be used when we answer these questions from viewers. And we have a few questions I want to get into today. One is from Tamara, and one is from Bruno. Who started that one on the eye pressure thing? Is that Bruno?
That was Bruno.
I believe so,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's who we're going to be doing. And so at a high level, I'm going to let Mitchell take a little bit of lead on the Bruno one because he's been participating in that discussion. But then for the Tamara one, we've already at a high level kind of broken down the questions she was asking in her email because there were several things that she was inquiring about that are related but are separate. And so that's one of the first things as an IG you want to do is whenever you approach something is try to get your head around the major drivers or major elements on the board for this case before you start playing into pieces, because the pieces all have energy in them. If you start approaching any of the energetic pieces involved in the case, it will give you impact and it'll influence you, which is good once you have proper context. But before context, it will influence the context. As a detective, you want to have that avoided until you feel that you've set a nice broad net. And of course, with abductive reasoning, you always want to be expanding that net. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the eye pressure one first, because that'll be a little quicker, I think. Mitchell, go ahead and kind of like let us know what's going there a little bit, and we'll chime in.
Sure, sounds good. All right, so basically, he
I'm
posted.
sorry, is that Ben? Perhaps could you mute?
Oh, sorry, there's people in the background.
No worries.
Yeah, don't worry about it. All right, so the thread is called Unconscious Physiological Signals and Background Steering, and Bruno created it. And here, I'll read the opening paragraph, which is brief, and then I'll just explain some of the other stuff he talks about. I don't have to read it all. All right, so sometimes when I'm unsure how to proceed with a course of action, I'll run through various options/scenarios in my head, and one of them will coincide with a slight twitch in my eyebrow or eyelid, usually on the left and occasionally on the right. This might not mean much, but I've gotten in the habit of following that signal, and more often than not, it yields positive results. Could this be an indirect way that my subconscious is communicating with me? Yeah, that last bit, especially about the subconscious communicating, that's actually what I was mostly responding about, because I personally haven't noticed the eye thing as much for myself, although there may well be something to that. I haven't paid attention to it at all. So I'm not in any way
I think there
disagreeing
might be
with it.
something to that, but I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Wait, what did he specifically say as far as the eye movement?
Basically, he feels these kind of twitches on either his left eye or sometimes his right eye, and he believes that they might mean that his subconscious is trying to tell him something through
I think
those.
that might also be nervous energy.
Could, yeah.
Again, I think they're actually related. I can give some anecdotal sort of evidence or just story from my point of view. I don't know exactly what this means for other Naiji because I've not really discussed this.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Right.
I do know that there is a correlation between when my Nai really gets going. This can be when it's like mulling over a problem that's giving it difficulty, it's really revving its engine, or it can also just be it's really revving because it's got a great idea and it's just expanding, it's going this and this and this and this. So it's heavy Nai use, but because that kind of like whoa, 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 there may be something to the unconscious element because I do feel like I'm getting maybe also a strong surge from my other's knee because it feels very like excited, like I can't expand my model, my vision fast enough. Like expand, and I'm like, like trying to like either get something or I'm being given something. The package just keeps opening up. When it happens, I do sometimes often feel a pressure in the back of my eyes. Jaleen's know this, and I do feel like a heaviness, and I think it may be something to do with why a lot of Naiji have like the sort of like the dark circles under their eyes. There's like a pressure that comes in the back of them. And then I also know sometimes it really gets going, particularly when I'm like synonymous with the Nai and the V a bit. Maybe it's knee in there as well. That there is like a twitchiness on the eyelids themselves. So it generally for me starts with the pressure in my head that kind of comes in the back of the eyes, and I do feel it more on the left. And then it can also work itself around to where I'm twitching on the eyebrow muscles and on the top of the eyelids. So that's just my anecdotal story.
That's interesting.
I think in general, like sometimes if I get into some of my more dreamy states, I can kind of feel a bit more of a heaviness on the eyelids themselves.
Yeah.
So that I think that could relate to Nai, but also I think that you're also talking about like unconscious energy from me, from
yeah, but I agree. I think it's starting from the Nai. I believe this is a Nai-driven thing, but I think it's, for me, it seems to be when the Nai is just really going super strong, and there's a lot of, it's just like, it's expanding. It generally happens where like it's like really trying to like model. I can feel the engine pushing. I don't know. That's when I do it, but I do think that there's a relationship to the knee also being highly excited at that time as well.
Okay, something important to mention too is that he believes, at least for him, or at least what he's talking about, is that I think what you're talking about is absolutely true, and I think I've noticed that. But he's also talking about the subconscious. He believes the subconscious is hiding information with him that he can only receive kind of through those signals. Like it's not.
No, that I disagree with.
Okay.
For me,
or like he's speculating. He's a thinker.
Right. So I would be disinclined to think that way, just Occam's razor, because I've had that sensation throughout my life. But it's, for me, now there is a correlation. He's not wrong here. To me, it is associated, like in a more mathematical way, with heavy, intense usage. Mm-hmm. That does tend to correlate to some of my most successful Nai insights. So there is a correlation, but I would not immediately make, in fact, it's very important to not make the one-to-one on success. Like my eyes twitch, that means I got their answer right. No, eyes twitching means my engine's working really hard. When my engine's working really hard, it does tend to get right answers a lot. That's a very important distinction.
I got you. I like that point. All right.
So it's kind of a fifth-year awareness thing, like you
very much so.
What actually is going on? That you've actually been working really hard on this, so that eliminates the certain possibilities as far as like if you think that you're starting to doubt yourself on oversights that you would have been able to catch, then that sort of gives you a little bit of a perspective on how the read is going for you.
It can. It can also sort of tell you that this is useful. And I think this relates to what you're saying, Ben, is that there can be like a, for lack of a better word, when you see something really insightful, like did I just see what I saw? Or is that really the right answer? You kind of like just sort of like I got stunned, and you're not quite sure whether to accept it. I have found that there are certain symptoms of heavy nigh use that I do use to reassure me that no, I think this just might be a mother lode of insight. So there is a correlation between that heavy feeling and getting a mother lode of insight.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll get insights that you couldn't have got without that nigh heavy really revving up those engines, and that's why maybe he thinks he feels like it's subconscious keeping something from. It's not that as much maybe as like the nigh is just giving him all these insights, and he'll realize something that maybe if he worked that hard before he would have realized. But
yes, that's what he is. I think what he's when he said that, I like that. I kind of got a vision of Super Mario Brothers. I think he's actually equating I do this, and it opens up boxes like one-to-one.
Right.
And it's not. It's that when your nigh gets going that much, you get the Super Mario double jump. Magical double jump, and when you get the magical double jump, a whole bunch of boxes open up that were hidden from you because you couldn't jump that high before.
Yeah.
So now you can, they're there, but it's not a direct one-to-one because you could, if you could find any other way to work your way up the screen to that box is right there for you to get anytime you want. You don't actually have to have the super jump. But anytime you do it, it's kind of like some people getting drunk. You can maybe release your unconscious in ways you can't do normally because you're inhibited when you get drunk. But once you realize that, you're like, oh, you can do that without having to be drunk. That open up a door. But a lot of people don't realize that was just a door opener. Really, it's about the door, what comes through the door. You've equated the door, a possible door opener with the door. That's a very critical mistake that gets made a lot, and it will really send you off the wrong way.
Right.
I got you.
About this,
because sort of like the eye thing, like I need my eyes to twitch. You know what I mean? Like if I don't bite my finger or my eyes don't twitch, it's like a batter who like if I don't spit in the ground 3 times, I can't hit the ball. Like that's not helpful. That's not a helpful ritual. You know what I mean? That's actually holding you back.
And actually, I don't personally even relate to the nigh twitchiness.
Right.
But like I kind of like understand in my own way like what you guys are talking about. I don't necessarily get the heaviness in the eye. I'm just not able to relate to that as much.
I think perhaps it's also a description. His description, I think, is very specific because I think I know what he's talking about, and I do have that on a regular basis. But I have other symptoms as well that I'm aware of that maybe will be more something you can relate to. Because to me, it's a bigger pantheon than what he's describing. To me, the pantheon is the feeling you get when you wake up in the morning when your eyes are really heavy. Right? You have a lot of sleep in your eyes, and they're a little kind of like out of focus maybe, and there's more like almost feels like which they have been doing. They've been doing a lot of REM. They've been doing some weird movements, so they're like I almost feel like swollen or something. Sometimes, at least myself, I notice
it's sensitive, right? Because of the light.
If I get going, like I don't know if you've ever done this, like gone for a walk, and then you got really into your nigh. And then when you come out of it, you kind of feel a little bit like you do when you wake up in the morning. Your eyes are kind of like not focused like they normally are. Like it's hard to explain, but you kind of get sleepy eyes. Like literally, like you've gone to sleep. Your eyes are kind of like puffy, and so when you've been sleeping and when you've been dreaming. You ever notice you've been having like intense dreams? You ever have nightmares or really great dreams? Your eyes are a little heavier when you wake up. I think Nai can do that with their lucid dreaming ability to where they get worked up. Sometimes they get, and it may not be the same thing where your eyes get like dark circles or that they twitch. It may just be they feel sleepy. Do you mean like out of focus? That might be.
Yeah.
I do.
There's lots of different ways that it shows up. I think it basically just means that your nigh is kind of forcing you into a almost like sleepy state while you're awake.
Right.
That's what you notice when nigh gets really revved up. It's weird. As it gets revved up, it has sometimes a corresponding, I guess, like anti-V, like a sedative quality, like a dreamscape quality, where I kind of like just get sort of numb and pulled away from the world.
There's like this daze almost.
Yeah, like a daze. Yeah. I get kind of dazed as the insights get clearer. My like physical world association gets foggier.
It takes so much effort to focus on that when you're in that state.
But so I think there's a lot of symptoms, and he maybe should be kind of like citing one kind of particular.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I think he's just speculating of like, what could it mean? What could it mean?
I don't think it's bad at all. I think that it's there's something. What he's saying, I think, was a good observation. I do think it leads to an overall phenomenon Naiji have, but I think it's pretty large and widespread. There's a lot of different ways that it shows up. But I think it's definitely an interesting topic.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that kind of went on in the discussion that you thought were highlights we should be aware of?
I mean, I only responded once, and I was actually talking about stuff like where I'll forget something, and then I have these moments where all of a sudden I'll remember it, and I have these kind of big bursts of energy, and where I'll remember it, and it does sort of feel in a way like your psyche was keeping that information from you, like you sort of could have realized that earlier.
Okay, now this is key. Okay, this is very complex. When I said there's not a one-to-one between the eyelid twitching and your
I wasn't talking about the eyelids.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm clarifying my answer previously.
Okay.
I'm clarifying that because the new element is very interesting. You have to be clear about it, which is that when I said that the one-to-one, I mean that there's not a one-to-one relationship between the eye twitchiness and your spirits like giving or not giving you stuff. I hold to that. But I did not imply that spirits or your
don't hold
do not hold stuff from you.
Yeah, they do.
Most certainly do. So I'll make sure that was clear.
Yes. Okay, so that, I was kind of responding more to one aspect of him, and maybe that aspect that I was responding to does in fact, that's a good clarification. Maybe it does actually have more of, they actually were keeping something from me, particularly Vi stuff. Vi is so far deep in our unconscious, and I want to remember something, I just cannot consciously remember it, but then all of a sudden I'll have this big burst of energy like a week later or something, and then I'll get it when I wasn't really even trying to.
Yeah, that does happen all the time for sure.
Yeah.
But for me, I think we'll probably maybe all agree on this one. See, this one I think is a one-to-one. There's a sensation you get, and you mentioned it, like when you mentioned it, like I immediately identified, you get like, you tend to be kind of like foggy and tired and like unconfident on like doing like say Z and Vi stuff, and then every now and then like you'll get these dumps. I think we'll all agree they're periodic, and when they do happen, they kind of come as a clump. It kind of comes as a clump, and all of a sudden you're like this different person, and like this temporary period of time, like I'm all about organizing this playlist. You know what I mean? And like I'm like and you say to yourself like I don't do this. This is weird, but I've known a lot of Naiji, and every Naiji I've known has mentioned something to that effect in some way.
Or like I'll get in these modes where I'll get all these insights.
What's that?
I'll get in these modes where I get all these insights, and I'm just writing just pages and pages. I just keep getting another one and another one, and then the next day, even if I think about it, I can't really get it anymore.
Yeah, it's for sure. I definitely experience that all the time. You learn to kind of just ride it and try to figure out what it wants to give you, kind of what your talent, what your peak pathway wants to give you, like a surfer. You just kind of go up there and see what waves it's giving you, and then you go get your wave, you know what I mean? And ride it best you can.
Anything else?
I think we're good on that. Do we want to move over to Tamara's?
I can. Sure.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
all set? Okay, so Tamara's email had a lot of different elements to it, so I'm going to read it through once so the audience can kind of hear the different things we're addressing, and then we'll just kind of have at it because there's a lot of different things to address. All right, here we go. This is from Tamara. We do not know her mojo. Hopefully we'll at some point. Okay. Hello, Podler team. How are you doing? I'm here to submit my quick guesses for this week's quiz, but before that, Coach, will you one day share with us the different riffs of the Naiji that you and the rest of the team were able to identify so far, as well as celebrity samples of each riff? I started thinking in riffs for the Naiji only about a week ago as I make slow but obvious progress on this journey and hit marks one by one that you have already left years and years ago. I cannot but be amazed by these feats you have accomplished. I'm sorry for being so nosy, but I really wish you were a believer in God, especially since there is a strong atheist/anti-religious sentiment in the Podler community. I hope you understand that I'm speaking from a place of wishing you the best, and in my best understanding, belief in one God is the path to follow. I hope I didn't make anyone angry or annoyed. I also wonder if there's a point to sending in my guesses, although I see the process of reading these different people from different bubbles as very rewarding. But maybe you are just uninterested or even annoyed by my continuous contact. Either way, I'll try it again this time. All right, so there's a lot going on there, and we kind of pulled out the things we want to address. Can you quickly take us through those, Mitchell? Just read off the things we want to address.
Yes, I can. Okay, so the first one is these Naiji riffs in the celebrity samples that she mentioned that she was so amazed by. Then there's some beginner tips maybe to help her with her mojo reading progress. She also says that she wants us to believe in God, and she believes in God because she believes in God and that would be best for us. Then there's our stance on religious topics and the fact that she thinks there's some kind of anti-religious sentiment in Podlair. And then are we angry, annoyed, or offended by her bringing this up? And this is actually something she's mentioned more than once. And then there's the question of whether it's valuable for her to participate in the weekly quizzes.
Or send them in. Okay, so I'm going to fire some things off here real quick, and then we'll just turn it over to let people just have out of here. First, Naiji riffs. Yes, we do have a lot of them. We've not formally documented them, but we do have a lot, and we can gladly discuss. That'll be fun to do as we're talking about this. At some point, we'd like to actually publish that in a book, but first we want to get more of the Virtual Village mocked up before we start doing those kinds of specific studies. Mojo reading is something that you want to come at from the point of view of it's helping me become a better human being, understand other humans better. If you do that, it's always worthwhile and a great return on energy invested. Believing in God, that is not innately wrong according to Podlair. That's a confusion a lot of people have. It's a question of how do you define God? And there are definitions of God that are acceptable to Podlair, and Podlair can have Podlair Christians. But Podlair is such that you have to have it in line with natural law, and if you do that, then you should be able to have Podlair Christians and Podlair Buddhists and so on without it being a problem. If there's a problem, that comes in with definitions, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We'll get to that in a second. Okay. She wants us to believe in God. Real quick, if you believe in a belief in a higher power, then we already do in Podlair. We believe in a higher power. In a higher power that teaches you truth and how to be a better person, and that's what we do already, so we are already there. And then if it's the label God, I'm not quite sure why you need to call it that, because there are cultures that call God by any number of names, and that's okay. So our view of the ultimate power authority, we call it natural law or infinite mystery or the like, or the Great Spirit. So that just seems like a semantic thing, so I'm not quite sure why the semantics matter. So if it's a question of higher power, we already believe in a higher power of goodness and truth, and if it's a question of semantics, not sure why that's important. Stance on religion. Religion is not inherently bad. That's a misunderstanding. Podlair's coming out right now. It's starting from kind of a Naiji sort of push as it needs to. A lot of new movements kind of have to come out in that way. But the whole Nejez story and all the mojos are included. That means Z and Vi. But when you bring a new thing on, one of the first things that happens is you have to challenge all the ways that the current operations are making an issue. So we don't have a problem with religion as a concept. We have a problem with pretty much most of the current religion providers, because they're not working with the correct map that Podlair has. So it's not a question of we don't like religion. We don't like religions that don't make good products. So it's really a critique of the products they offer, not religion. Okay. Are we angry, annoyed, or offended? No. I've enjoyed her questions. As long as that they are respectful and they're done from a good place, which they seem like they are, then I like having them. And the rest of the team here, we've enjoyed answering Tamara's questions in the past. I enjoy answering them today and hopefully more in the future. Last, value of participating in the weekly quiz. Their value should be separate from social interaction with us. So that's important, is that whether or not what we're talking about, Tamara, as far as separate issues on different theory, that's separate from the weekly quiz and its inherent value. Its value is because it's an unprecedented disciplined way to learn how to read your fellow humans and know what's going on with that. And so that value is just there on its own. As far as maybe she meant the value of sending her guesses in, it's because that adds a level of difficulty that you need to know you have a real-world skill, and when you're able to do it in that way, it gives you a lot more confidence in using your ability in day-to-day life. All right, so I'll turn it over to you guys. What are you guys thinking?
Can we just talk about anything, or we want to go like in order?
Anything and everything. So,
okay. That's a lot.
I gave a quick kind of like answers there, so they've been addressed in some short fashion. Now
gotcha. Yeah, they have.
So it seemed like you guys at first were kind of wanting to
jumpy about some of them.
Yeah, is there any ones that were
Well, okay. I've noticed that there's just a general theme. There are Tamara's not the only one who's mentioned this. I mean, there are lots of people who've come in before, and we do believe very strongly in what we do, and then because like people sometimes like they think we're like not even open to like hearing questions at all, and that's why I think she's even asking if we're like angry, annoyed, or offended. There's absolutely no reason we'd be angry, annoyed, or offended by any questions as long as they come from a good place and are genuine like questions where you're really trying to come to a real answer and have a real discussion about it.
Right.
Any question at all. I mean, seriously.
So hopefully she understands that now, because we've tried to address her questions well in the past, and she seems like she has gotten something out of them. So hopefully that continues to be the case. So I don't mind talking these topics at all. I find them quite interesting.
Yeah. So that's just something I wanted to get off my chest.
No, that's good to know.
I think that the concept of anti-religion is interesting because I hear this brought up a lot, but I think we actually explained this where like a lot of people who are against the current religions will be accused of this because that people associate that with being against religion in general. Some people literally just disagree with what is currently being done in the current religions. They have their own spiritual practices. So, and also the definition is also kind of interesting because if you so much as critique religion or religions, then you are considered to be anti-religious. It's like your stance. It's like you know, some people like on political stances. Like if you have criticisms or you happen to agree with a particular way more, then you get accused of being anti that way completely. Right. So it's a very general term to use.
Yeah, so I'm glad we bring it up now because I'm Podler is actually pro anything that humans naturally do and need to do well. Religion, it's on the record now, is one of them. It's one that's not naturally as inclined to me as an IG because I don't have Vi. So working with cultural models and melding cultural tradition with current best understandings of natural law, that's something that actually me and Vi are very, very good at doing, which is something that's an IG. We're more like, I want the V of the mountaintop no one's been on so I can just do everything from scratch. So it's two different sides of coming at it, but Podler does, in fact, include both. So it's also important to note that like what I do personally or what the NIG here do is not what all Podler do. So as me personally, I don't have an interest in traditional, culturally based religions. But that doesn't speak for all NIG. There are NIG that can do that and do that successfully. Even if everyone here on this hangout is not interested in doing that, that doesn't mean that all Podler is not going to do more kind of formalized religious practice, because it is going to come up and that should come up. It's a question of if it's done correctly. Now, more specifically, from being anti-religious is being atheist, because that's actually specifically against God. I'm not against the concept of God except for some critical elements, which are workable. So these issues I have, I've talked with Nexi about this, they are something that if someone wants to work on them, they can fix them. But they are there to be mentioned, which is why I personally would choose not to go with the God label, because I don't want to have to keep address these issues throughout my life. Because you'll need to do that if you're going to have the term God be in alignment with the truth of natural law. But you can do this. So one issue is God has a sort of human quality to it in that it's conceptualized in this dialogue of a human talking to another being that has at least some, resonance with a humanoid. That's got a problem automatically because natural law, the it, the everything, the first thing you'd have to accept is that, and just in case, I do know a lot of people, for example, like my mom, do not think of God in that term. They think of it more as like a general energy. Okay, so, but you have to clarify, as my mom does all the time, you have to clarify that your take on God actually doesn't really put it in a human concept being form, personified in any human understanding way. Not just human-like, but human understanding. It's beyond that. So right there, you have to address that there is some clarity issues when you use the term God for a allness that is beyond definition. So I think if you look at this like, a true seeker, you have to recognize that you're trying to define the undefinable. That's a given. You're trying to define the undefinable. So right there, I think you agree, fellow Naiji, you'd want to go with a very light touch here and try not to pigeonhole yourself with any label since you're trying to define, by definition, the undefinable.
And you're just making it more difficult for yourself in the future.
So you'd want to go in automatically with, I want to do something that will be as close to the fidelity of the actual thing as can be, knowing I can never get it. So there should be a high wariness of being unclear in whatever label you choose. So for me, that has a high propensity for confusion. I would avoid it. But you can clarify so that God, when you say that term, actually means everything, so it can include that it's beyond human understanding. Okay, next my issue is that when you have the God, there's also the fact that it has a male connotation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to clarify that it is gender, it's dual union gender, and it's beyond gender. Again, this is explained. There's a lot of explaining you have to do if you choose this term, but you can do it. So it's very important to note, I do not object to the term God, just it's a confusing term. And on the spectrum of how it can be defined, there are a lot of definitions I do disagree with. So, but not the concept in general and not some definitions of it. What else? It's all knowingness related to that semantic word, as in we talk about the Great Spirit or natural law or God, and somehow God has more authority because you use that word. I can't agree to that because that's not how anything that we know about nature works. You don't get more authority because you call water agua. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Then there's like an implied a higher authority because I call it God. You only call it natural law. Like what? You like it more, so it likes you more. There's a little that implied like natural law somehow more of your buddy because you call it God. And I know a lot of Christians. There is that sentiment. So they have to let me know that they don't interpret God in that way. That another person can use another word, and if they actually are having the same feelings and sentiments and faith and belief and heroic effort and so forth, then it is the same. You can have seekers using different words. Otherwise, you get this like, you only kind of did it. You didn't really call it by, like natural law wants you to call it by its name. Say my name, and my name is God. I mean, I've heard this shit a lot. So I mean, I'm not making this up. So that is heavily associated with that term and the use of it. So anyone who's going to use that term of God correctly needs to be clear about that and separate themselves from that usage of it, which is quite common. Anyone else? Those are some of the ones that jump off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I don't know, like language, the whole purpose of it is just to communicate ideas. The idea that it should bind you doesn't make any sense.
Right. Or any cultural choice of it is preferred, like trees, like oak trees like to be called oak tree more than whatever they call that in some other country. The oak tree really cares. I think oak tree cares if you love it, give it sunshine and food and shelter.
It's just a term to invoke a concept in another person's brain when they hear it. That's all it is.
And that's kind of how they define spirituality. I mean, like, it is largely your association with that word. So I don't know.
Right. So, yeah, so there. So my problem with God exactly is not the term itself, and I think a lot of people do use it well, but they must understand that it's a, as you guys said, a language product, and you have to ask yourself, what's this product doing for me? Does it help me understand what I want to understand? Does it help me be what I want to be better? And you have to ask yourself, and this gets into some other things about wanting us to be believing, because we already are. Why do you care what label someone else uses? You should care about whether or not, in case, say, like, using terminology of Christians, whether or not they are sinful or not. And this gets into a critical element. Are they sinful because they don't use God's name? I don't believe that. That doesn't make any sense. From what I see in nature, nature cares that you know how it works and that you honor its way. If you honor its way, then, water boils like it's supposed to, planes take off. If you don't, it doesn't.
Yes.
This whole idea that you have sinned against natural law by labeling it something off. Natural law is going to do what it's going to do. That to me seems heavily like branding. That's cultural branding of we know natural law better, natural law. If you've seen history of cultures, every culture has done this. So to think that Christianity or any monotheistic religion is any different would be foolish. Every cultural bubble ever created, spiritual or economic or whatever, have this, we have the inside track. We are meant to win. We have a special bond with natural law that the other humans do not. And the only bond you have with natural law is your bond with natural law. It's not what you say it is. You cannot say your relationship with natural law. Natural law tells you what it is. Like, I have this relationship with God. He gives me these insights. I hear some Christians all the time. Okay, what are they? What are they? You can predict sickness in the family? And don't give me some anecdotal evidence. They always give you anecdotal evidence. No, do something that actually would be scientifically significant, because there's no reason why you should not be able to do that if you're actually being given truth. I've noticed that the more people can't prove their truth, the more they care so very much about the labeling of it. It becomes really important. For example, you'll notice that like in grappling or things like that, martial arts, people who can fight often don't really care what you say their style is. All they care is that you know they're good and what belts they have or what championships they have or things of that nature. Feats that show that they can perform that natural activity. People who can't, man, they'll go on and on about the lineage of their Wing Chun, whatever, like it really, really, really matters. It seems to matter a lot more to people that just can't prove the natural law they say they have. So to me, a lot of times it seems like semantics, and it seems like an over-fixation on semantics.
And there's like another agenda behind that fixation.
Yeah, exactly.
And just another thing I would add is...
Okay, go ahead, but let me rest of it.
Okay, just a brief point anyway. Like just any book that is not open to updating is not
Incorrect.
something we take seriously.
No,
that is one thing I would just put out there is that. So you brought up the concept of sin. I mean, I don't have a problem with the word, but if you're talking about the Bible, that's
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And so, to me, a sin, I don't mind the word sin, if used as far as an infraction against natural law.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sin. So, for example, I think it's a sin. I don't mind the term. I can use the term soul and sin. I came from a spiritual background. So it's a sin to not honor your peak pathway. So I'm actually fine with that. But see, and I don't mind doing it. And in fact, you need to do it because
you take back the word.
Not define the term sin or soul or the like, then they'll say that you cannot operate at that altitude. It's quite the opposite. They actually are getting nosebleeds trying to keep up where we're going, which gets to the agenda that she's really going with here. And it's not that she's trying to do anything bad. I think it's actually being done unconsciously. Which is, but real quick, that's why I don't mind and actually feel that it's important to be able to define polarity. I know it's a big deal in spiritual terms and scientific, and to be able to actually make mathematical energetic correlations and cross math between the two, because it's all one thing. In fact, the fact that other models cannot do this is where they get rattled. This gets to the agenda. I believe Tamara is rattled. and she should be rattled. This is the reason why. Let's talk about this. She believes that God is the best. She wants us to believe in God. Okay, let's talk about believing what is best. I think that we can define this as the human condition and the meaning of existence, and that from her point of view, God tells you the best way to do this. All right. There's no way around it. If the Mojo phenomenon is true, which it is, and Podler discovered it, which it did, that is the single greatest discovery of anything related to humans and the human condition, including souls and what happens with them and what constitutes them, that's ever been done by any human. That's a fact. Now, the only question, and this brings on the board, this may be the unconscious of Tamara, and should be rattling her a little bit. Why didn't Jesus say that? Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to explain why, of all the things you need to tell a human, things like when to work on a day or not, or what, to be very philosophical questions as far as how humans work and what they should be doing, but the most obvious one is right there. And Jesus had lots of people that he was around for long periods of time, and he was able to organize them. So that's everything you need to have actually done the Rosetta Stone of the human soul. So this is coming from why she's saying these things, whether she knows it or not. This is bringing up questions in her, and it should for any Christian as well, and anyone else, any model. Why didn't my Buddhist teachings that say how the whole Bardo experience of meditation works, how come it didn't find Mojo? Once Mojo is proven to be true, and that's what we're doing right now, why didn't my Buddhist meditative state reveal this truth? Because it's implied. This Buddhist training or Christian prayer, it's giving me the ultimate insight into natural law available regarding the human condition and the meaning of existence. So why didn't it say that? It should be rattling anyone who cares about being a seeker of why whatever model they were using didn't come up with this, did not discover it when it's right there to be discovered. It's there, and then the supreme importance of it is as obvious as it being there is. So this gets into why she wants us to believe in God. Well, the reason is, this is just a fact. I'm not just bragging, I'm just stating a fact. Any model would be stupid to not want me to be in as their champion. When Mojo gets seen by the world to be the phenomenon that is running everything, has been here for the whole time, everyone's going to want to be able to say that they had something to say with it. I'm telling you, the Christian schooling I got back in the day, they're going to jump out of the woodwork. Everyone's going to want to say...
They're going to be like, oh, we taught it, Coach, everything.
Oh, man, then you got to beat them with a stick. You need a stick.
There's nothing... I've already tried out all these models, and there's nothing they or any of their practitioners can do that could keep me. I'm doing something that's going to actually pull more and more people over because it trumps everything that they're doing, and it's directly related to this whole seeker thing that supposedly different religions are about, but they're not. In a lot of ways, they're merely cultural institutions that say they are. Although I do think there are a lot of people who are doing that, and that parts of the religion are definitely meant for that, are good at that. That can all stay. Now that gets over the Nija area of things, but I do allow for that. Why is it important for example, we insist that she shows us her video at some point so we can see her Mojo. The reasoning on that is obvious. Why do we need to believe in God? I don't see the point in that. For example, right now, I know more about the human condition and what to do with my life than any other human, including any Christian. So why would I want to believe in that? What can it do for me? And I'm not talking in a V materialistic way. I'm talking in a philosophical, spiritual, soul way. What does it offer my... Right, this is what I'm talking about. Sin, souls, peak pathways. What do you offer my soul? You say that you offer these things, but you have no proof of anything. And I have proof that my way provides more insight and better actual peak pathway reward, so that's cool just enjoyment-wise, but also knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my gifts correctly. So I know Christians do think in terms of, they do have qualities somewhat, and that they'll say things like, God gave these people these various gifts. Okay, so you understand that God gives gifts and you're supposed to honor them. How do you do that? And why is it that someone and other people from a whole different model had to explain to you that? That's a problem. Christians and monotheists and different spiritual models, I think they can actually be upgraded to Podlair, but one thing they're going to have to get over is a literal take on what they're doing and understand that it is in a more metaphorical sense. Okay, I was hanging out with Christians for quite a long time, and I know which ones are strong, which ones are weaker. Let me tell you something. All the strong ones that actually want to be able to hold a defensible position somewhat, not just socially, talking to an audience, but also inside their own soul. You cannot hold to the world as 6,000 years old. It's just stupid. Okay? Any Christian who's worth their salt and just wants to have their brain not just shut down from being so freaking stupid, they have to say it's metaphorically 7 days. Because metaphorically 7 days, you can still have some science in there. Do you mean so like that? I'm telling you some crucial things that you'll have to do as a Christian to be able to handle what natural law is actually telling you. Like Christians that can digest fossils and they're still okay with like that and the metaphorical 7 days, okay, you can still be discussed with. Ones that are like there are no fossils, they don't mean anything is over 6,000 years old. Then one, there's not much to talk to a person like that, and two, how can anyone expect someone who's come as far as I have, as far as understanding the human condition and meaning of existence, to want to adopt that? I know this person didn't mean this way, so I'm not offended, but I am alert to being lessened. I don't think this is what she meant to do. I think she was trying to bring me up, but let's just talk about it. What up would I be taken to? As opposed to what up is she getting from learning Podlair? This is just I'm just talking like very matter-of-fact way here of why would that be something I would consider, and then why did she put it forward? I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that.
Like why insist on?
Yes, because the bringing up of the Christianity thing of wanting to help us. But it seems like that's being brought up because she's feeling more need for help. Like when I have doubts, I never think about God or anything of the like. I think of how could I get Podlair move forward? How could I understand things better? How could I be more heroic than I was before? I tried those other things. I prayed to God. I did Buddhist meditation, so forth. It didn't produce Moja reading. Right now, no Buddhist right now can Moja read. No one who besides me and people I taught, actually can read the Moja phenomenon worth anything. So I'm curious as this goes out what the Christian stance is going to be on it, because I think a lot of them are going to be able to, if they are open-minded and don't insist on a literal translation. I noticed this too, that people insist on a literal translation, your kind of more conservative take on different religious models. They tend to be resistant to learning just what's going on in the world. And there's a willingness to want to know truth that should trump everything else. And that shouldn't be a problem with anyone who believes in God in a correct way, because God should be truth and love. Okay, then knowing the truth about how everything works is the best way to love everything as well. So this gets back to, like, say, Christianity, the concept of universal love. How long have they been doing that? How long has social alchemy been right in front of their face? How did you not equate universal love to social alchemy? How did all those years and centuries of saying, universal love, and none of the Christian scholars ever put two and two together? that there's actually a math to universal love. It's called social alchemy. Social alchemy is the math of universal love. So this gets right into it. Like Podler can directly, and this is why Podler must be done scientifically and spiritually, because we're going to challenge on both fronts. But I would make friends on both fronts. But this gets into like science. There are certain scientists that they're really married to a theory. They've like placed all their legacy in that. And that's something they have to get past. Other people are into science because they want to know truth. So you show them that Mojo is true. Once that gets on their lens, they're good to go. Those scientists can be worked with. Same thing with spiritual people. If you're about being a better person, a seeker, you want your soul to be saved, whatever that means, you want to go higher, you want to be good, all that kind of stuff, then you should be able to update your understanding of whatever spiritual practice you're doing to include new stuff. Anytime science or spiritual practice does not update for new stuff, it's incorrect. It's going against natural law. It's wrong. So that's just the way of it. Any other thoughts you guys have? We can get maybe some Naiji riffs.
Yeah, as I say, that is one kind of area for questions we have. We focus more on like the religion-oriented topics, which is, and we can get to more of the Mojo reading one.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll just say before we get into the riffs, I think that was natural and good to do, and it gets into why, as I was talking to you guys about working cases, I'd like to see all the tracks laid out first, because then generally once I have it, the tracks that need to be addressed first will kind of just start calling to me, as it did all of us. The reason is, that's a very good question of the Naiji riffs, but it's done within a rather unusual and mixed message-laden context. It's important to constellate that and mention it at least in some small cursory fashion before moving into other pieces.
Mm-hmm.
One, because there may be the issue of the tone can reflect on a topic, but even if it doesn't, it will be on our mind. The fact that we're answering a question, there's a lot of truth going on here. So like you're answering a like person A's question about whatever, and you really want to be talking about this other thing because they mentioned that. And so you're doing the other one first, but there's going to be a little bit of like anxiousness and going through the motions because you have something else that's nagging on your mind that you think really kind of needs to be addressed first before you get into that. Does that make sense? And essentially, we all kind of naturally prioritized in that direction.
We really did. We were like talking about that. We, like when we even brought those up, like you were telling us, we need to constellate the case, and you're right. But we were like jittery about that one. We really wanted to address it.
And it's because I think when you look at this, because it's talking about working a case. In this case, we're working the case of Tamara. Tamara is someone we don't know her mojo, but we do know some things about her. And so here, when we're addressing her again in this way, looking at her case, this issue she has with our take on God and religion and so forth, and whether or not we are enjoying her interaction, it seems that those are the higher energetic drivers in some ways, and so it feels correct to kind of address them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like more big picture stuff.
Yeah. Because even for herself, I think that she will probably be able to process what we say about the Naiji riffs easier now that this other, enlightenment elephant has been addressed in something.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it was just like a much heavier question in general. So it was important to address that first.
Agreed. Because it does. Certain questions kind of cast more of a shadow, and so it's just natural to constellate for an IG and then to address the biggies first.
Exactly.
Okay, so then let's get into hopefully that did not offend Tamara. She did not offend us. It's not my or our intention to offend her. We try to answer honestly, and hopefully it'll make for more ongoing dialogue. Okay, because I plan for Podler to be talking to all different kinds of religious orders in the future, and I look forward to that. But there needs to be some sort of platform we can all speak on. That's what Podler is trying to do, and since currently, and this has to be said, we have the highest demonstrable understanding of the human condition, it makes sense for us to try and set some sort of universal, diplomacy for all the religious models to work with. Like science, I mean, they can be very rough with each other, but they do have an agreed upon method for working their differences out. The spiritual models also need a way to be able to do that, to have speculations on the way they think things work, and then, kind of talk about, discuss it, try it out, and grow from it. All right. So now on to Naiji riffs. Oh goodness, there's so many. Huh.
So we're just talking about.
You know what we should do?
Like,
We should probably take turns because there's so many. Let's do a game. See how many we can get.
Okay.
I've already never run out.
No, because it's so daunting when I'm like, there's so freaking many. I have to make like Nexie came in, she's like, make it fun, make it a game. I'm like, okay, 'cause that's a lot. All right, I'll start off with, obviously you can have your like classic, feral philosopher Naiji, kind of out in the wild, reading lots of books and so forth.
Okay.
As far as real life people, I don't know names off the top of my head, but a lot of the sort of public intellectuals we know fit that. They look kind of like scruffy and so forth, but brilliant, and they look like they don't care about a whole much except for their books. So there's any number of them.
All right.
There's also the BAM.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a big
As far as
one.
examples, some of the good revolutionaries, most
Lots of spiritual model people.
spiritual models. Oh yeah, you're
There's
right.
chess players. There's
There's all kinds of ways.
Hey, Bam! Highly likely a Bam. Jesus.
Yeah, no, really. That's exactly what I was thinking.
most
It's
likely. Yeah.
true. A very bearded angry man.
Very relevant.
Hold on, what are the chances of Jesus being a Vaiji?
Not high.
Slim? Okay.
One thing I think you're thinking, you're maybe
Associating Christianity
you're
with
associating Christianity now with then. Most
Right.
orders that are in their traditional form were founded by Naiji, and were considered radical when they first came out.
Right. Yeah.
Christianity was definitely among those.
It was considered very radical.
Right.
But I mean, like, we have 10,000 samples. We have over 10,000 samples that we've put out, and so there's all kinds of riffs that you can find within that if you choose to go and download the ebook and like.
Oh
look
my
at
gosh,
it.
yeah, and even within individual people, there's
Yeah, exactly.
tons of riffs.
Exactly. And then
And
there's
it's not very complicated to do that. I think you kind of have to make a book on riffing and just give some examples, but I don't think you could ever
Yeah.
give like a full cataloging.
No, you don't need to. They just
Because like you guys saying, like you're gonna have all these things like, oh, that person's upper lip reminds me of Denzel
Yeah.
Washington. Like, that person's
Seriously.
like when they wink. It's just so So I think we'll at one point do a book on just mode reading, and then probably a book on each one of the gears. And as part of fourth gear, we'll do a lot on riffing, but it'll be more like principles and then lots of examples, but not anything like an exhaustive cataloging. That's just impossible.
you can't. It'd be like it's because it's really a very interpretive thing. Riffing people, it'd be like trying to give an exhaustive catalog of what your interpretive perceptions can be on
Basically,
something.
not
It's
exactly,
ridiculous.
but there's like basically infinite. Well, actually, yeah, there's like basically infinite things you can riff off of.
Right.
almost. I mean, it's like
yeah, and I think
Because
you
they
can
keep
find
coming.
there's like different kinds of riffs too. Like we usually associate riffs with like same mojo riffs or something like that. But
yeah,
You can
find
actually-
something.
I
Yeah.
think you can find like certain. There's like different kinds of riffs where you can like you kind of like two people might have like a similar looking face, and then people call that a riff. But so there has to be like different kinds of like definitions.
There's
And,
just
and yeah,
Yeah,
and
like there should be like
sometimes
false
Well,
riffs.
this refers when it's actually correct. What you're talking about is actually a faux riff.
Faux riff, exactly. Yeah.
Faux riff.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you
true.
can sometimes riff off of certain things about them that two mojos share. Like for example, you've seen Nai Alpha through a riff of someone, right? So that part of it was actually correct. But a certain part of it wasn't actually exactly what you were looking for. So
Okay,
um,
cool. But here we do. We're like pay to play. We have to actually do suggestions. So we'll make sure we give her a decent list though. So I
Yeah.
gave one. Glenn gave one. Mitchell.
all right. Another good riff is like a really kind of V'd up athlete Naiji.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of those, and they can be very
Yeah.
confusing, but they are Naiji and they're
Nice.
very good at sports.
Any number of sports will see that.
Yeah.
Ben.
I noticed with I think it was Peter Joseph. He was like kind of that. He had a very sleepy academic look to him.
Oh yeah.
A lot of Naiji academics are like that.
Yeah, there is definitely that kind of.
But he
There's like,
monologued a lot. Like he can actually keep himself going, like on topic for like extensive period of time. But he has that. It is a very chilly, sleepy look to him.
Yeah, sleepy. There's a lot of the academics have that, and some of the film directors and
Very true.
composers as well. What
Yeah.
else?
There's like
a slight variation. My turn. Slight variation on the beat up thing is there's the sort of aggressive, it's like set to aggression, and you'll see that you can see it all over the place, but definitely, say for example, in MMA. But a lot of athletes as well will have kind of like this set to baleful, and pretty much they're always like taking up space aggressively, so no one takes space on them. They kind of like pick up whatever ground they can. You'll see that a lot of the Naiji athletes in football, basketball, like Michael Jordan, for example, just they kind of exude like, this is my court. I own anything I look at or touch or walk near. And so, yeah, that's a common one as well.
That's very true.
Who's up next? Let's go. Mitchell, you got anything?
Oh, I think it's Glenn's turn.
Glenn?
Oh, I was thinking about actually like female Naiji. They tend to be very, very faux yin, faux.
Not all of them,
But that is a riff.
Well, yeah, I know.
But not that's much of a broad statement.
I don't want to be general. I want
There's
to
a riff of them that can be, yes.
Yeah, there's definitely like that kind of. I don't know how to like describe that. Like faux yin, there's definitely like there's a
Very
kind
slinky,
of.
very, very slinky and elegant. Actually, there's
Yeah,
two of that. There's two faux yins I think you see a lot. One is like the real slinky, elegant, and the other one's more like the playful, coquettish.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you think they're like knees high or something.
Yeah, right.
Like Keira Knightley kind of stuff.
Well,
Oh, Trixie, but I got her now.
Yeah. Interesting. It's really interesting. Anyway, another riff of mine. As another more one I think you would see with the males, but it's a little different than Vita, but like where they're more meaty. Like they have this real like meaty. It's more a physiological riff, like
Oh,
body.
yeah, they're talking about, they challenge. It kind of hides the wizard stuff a bit.
It does, and it make you think they're like objective or something like that, because it could look like a helmet head, but it's really not. Or it could look like.
A lot of the athletes,
I know what you're thinking.
they tend to have that more sturdier bone action.
Yeah.
I know.
Football players, Ben Brode.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about. Yep.
That's what made me think of it. But it's a bigger riff than that. Yeah.
Yeah, like The Rock. There's The Rock.
Oh my God. Yeah. Exactly.
Totally.
Perfect example.
Ben, you got anything?
Oh, Deer in Headlights comedic Naiji.
Oh yeah. I got one for him. What's his name? He plays Andre in The League. It is what's gonna bother me so much? Andre in The League. What is his name? Paul Scheer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he has that Deer in Headlights Naiji comedic thing a lot. Dave Chappelle does that too. Well, guys, like he does it. He does the other guy kind of does it more like in a beta way. He does it Chappelle more like comedically, like where he imitates other people. He does a great white person Deer in Headlights.
He does.
That's great.
Let's see. Another one. Actually, we see this sometimes like those game designers sometimes, comic book people and so forth. Is they'll have like a really strong connection to their other, particularly through some medium, and they're really kind of childlike. And you would
Right. Yeah.
you'd be very surprised they're a hunter. They seem so happy and shiny and like la la la.
Ben Brode like encompasses.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Ben
that's a
Brode.
great
Exactly.
example.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Ben Brode.
Let's see. Other ones.
I feel like preparing a little bit. I mean, he's not a game designer; he actually plays them. But he has kind of that attitude as well. I've watched a lot of them.
Who's that?
Ben
Preparing.
Brode, a sample.
He was the Naiji video game streamer that.
Yeah. He was like the kind of big Naiji on Ben's quiz.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, I know another riff. This one's more physiological, but there's definitely like a thing to it. Is they'll have like a big head, and normally Naiji tend to be a little leaner of head. They'll have like, and this be certain times, ethnicities will have it more, but I notice even all cultures, they'll sometimes have these more like square-headed Naiji, and they look like sphinxes. Because they'll have that womp, but it's like in this big head, but the head's like very dreamy and graceful and sleepy. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I feel like Crip has a lot of that. Like it's not exactly a huge head, but it's very kind of squarish and
Squarish, yeah.
He has that really dreamy look to him when he's on camera, and it's cool.
Actually, I think Ben has a little bit more of like a square head too.
Yeah,
If
my head's a little squarish. Yeah.
A little square,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it still actually overall has like an angularness to it. His angles is just like just a general shape. Are more square, but a bit more like a knee eye.
Mhm. It's actually interesting.
But like I'm
you know,
talking ones
like
that actually like have like almost like power head.
it was
Do
actually
you know any like people?
Yeah, I'm trying to think real quick. There's I know for one thing, it tends to be sometimes more ethnically driven. I know sometimes they'll be even round. Also, like Michio Keiko, he has
Right.
that big round head, and then this it's just neat looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's sometimes like a circle face or like a square face, but it's like a you know what I mean. And then but those drifts look really neat in that way.
All right.
Yeah,
So we just brainstorming riffs like just now, like we're not taking turns anymore.
Yeah, just jump it out. Whoever gets anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I have another one.
Yeah.
Would actually be autistic Naishi.
Oh goodness, yes. For sure.
Okay, I
There's
don't.
one for other configurations, but it's not only an IG thing, but it is there.
Who would be an autistic Naiji? I don't know if I.
Jacob Barnett is one. I think we might have more than that.
Oh, is what do you call it? That one dude from A Beautiful Mind? Is he something too?
I don't know. I don't know that John Nash is autistic. He might be. He had a lot of issues.
Right. Trying to think other ones. And there's also lots of riffs. I mean, if you just go by bubble, every single bubble Nige you're in, they tend to have a riff there, just because there's a correlation between which Nige you choose to hang out in those bubbles, and the bubbles also condition those who are in there.
Exactly. Like they're trying to like make themselves an avatar of the bubble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
oh, whose turn is it?
And we're not doing turns anymore.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just-
I was gonna say like Zion V heavy tennis player Naji. Like,
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of those. I mean, they all have.
I mean,
to have
we already mentioned like athletes
Yeah.
have a lot of V, but they also have like a lot of Zai because of the nature of the sport.
I think you're right, Ben.
There's crossover, I think, there, Ben, that riff you're talking about, and also like
Very elegant.
like crafts, the crafter.
Yeah.
Nige.
That's a
Oh yeah,
that's,
Real laid back, but they're very visceral, but they're kind of like chill visceral.
Mm-hmm.
and it's like an elegant, kind of refined visceralness from the Zai, rather than the more like really just out there, I don't know, super dominant visceral.
More
That like you see with like an MMA fighter, or a football player, or someone like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, some of the Nige MMA fighters are really Zied up. They
Oh,
kinda-
that's true. Yeah.
They kind of go, I am a zombie. I feel no pain. It's really lame.
That's true. That's
They
true.
tend to be the most very boring though.
Yeah.
Now, interesting. Sometimes though, some Nige can be very creative while still having a lot of Zai. I noticed that some of the composers and like tennis players too can have a lot of Zai, but they can also be very creative while having a lot of Zai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Directors
producers, directors. Yeah, I was just thinking.
Writers.
Writers, screenwriters, all that kind of thing. That's like its own kind of riff too, like the artistic kind of,
Yeah.
kind of like mastermind kind of like. But very, very oftentimes, when actors speak about them, they're always like, he was like really great, and then he was like just like some whispers, like a little tiny like advice here and there, and it was like in a very nice kind of like deferential kind of way too. So.
There's also this riff of like Naiji female music artist I was thinking of, where like they have this really kind of ghostly, seductive kind of riff, but it's like it's very yin, like slinky, but like it's not like they're hiding their dominance. Like the slinkiness makes them seem like really formidable.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh,
Yeah, they
Enya,
tend to have really good game.
Yeah, and a lot of like Synomnia and.
What's that?
There's.
Were you saying something, Glenn?
Oh,
Yeah.
I was about to say something. You preempted me. I didn't even make the noise yet. Okay, but yeah, I was thinking there's like Chris Farley riffs too. There's like heavier set, and then kind of reminds me. Yeah, there's also that kind of riff as well a bit.
And it was, you also have, obviously they can get more specific on like things you'll see, but that tends to get like case by case basis. But as far as like bigger riffs, I think probably something else is there's a I don't know if I mentioned it. I said the feral kind of philosopher, but there are actually more like you're just classic, like in the woods. They're not even philosophical. They're just more like survivalists. And they tend to look a bit like.
Siri?
What'd you say?
Like Sears? I don't know. I was thinking something like.
That seems kind of philosophical.
Oh yeah, no, but these ones I'm talking about actually are kind of I get beat up a way, but more like out in the woods beat up, if that makes any sense.
I know what you mean.
They're kind of like really like uber rustic. You know what I mean? Uber rustica.
Sort of like druidy.
No, that's like saying that I talk like a feral philosopher. These ones are talking more not the feral philosopher. They're more just like I don't know, hillbilly Naiji.
Oh.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, like they just sort of enjoy just.
You can't leave out the Naiji bums. There's a whole riff of that.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh wow.
It's embarrassing how many bums are Naiji, but what can you do?
Yeah, and they're not there probably aren't that many on our celebrity list. Maybe there are, but there's a lot that aren't.
Oh man, it'd be interesting to record that demographic data. It's like you just walk down the street. There's like a bunch of bums everywhere, and then that one's an IG. That one's I don't know.
It makes sense though, because that one thing that kind of unites most bums, not all of them, but the vast majority, regardless of their kind of unique individual circumstances, is they basically decide to say, you know what, I'm just not doing this. I'm not even going to keep up a pretense that I'm doing it. I'm out. I'm out. Sam out. And different things have brought them to that point, but they got to a point where they're like, I'm not even going to bother trying. And Naiji are more inclined than any other Mojo
to do that.
To basically like the Xian vibe, like the world's ongoing, like it's good.
Yeah. They checked out basically. Right?
Yeah.
They checked out Naiji.
Like, what's your permanent record? I don't care. As far as like that, like you know what? Once you just don't care about bankruptcy on your record, it's freeing. Naiji are more inclined to say things of that nature than any other Mojo comics. You know what? Once you just don't care what your family thinks about you, it's freeing.
Yeah, like a Vise G, I don't know if that would be much.
I'm sure there's at least one in the world. One Vaiji bum.
That probably is.
I'm sure there's bums and everything.
I know, there's probably bums and everything.
The overriding driver is going to be difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
That's
and everyone
suffers from that. But of general, life gets too hard, so you check out. We've already figured out that since Naiji think often that they're most rare, clearly it's quite difficult to be a Naiji. So they're more inclined to be like, you know what, this game seems rigged, so I'm just going to say, fuck it. You guys do whatever you're going to do. I'm just going to go to this whole corner and just chill.
And then there's also Naiji criminals, and then there's also Naiji that get like addicted to certain substances or stuff like that.
I'm sure there's entire like mafia families of like double-directed Naiji and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think
I'm pretty sure.
Bodies are. At least what media I have, it looks like the Victoria Gotti is
Oh yeah. I remember seeing those samples. But I don't think like Ninja would be interested in like getting into that kind of.
I don't know.
I think
Maybe
actually
it's possible.
You do see that a lot. I think probably it's going to depend on, say, Naiji criminals. There's a way they tend to organize their life, and actually a lot of Naiji kind of like hitters do it this way, is either you go the route of I have home as a refuge, and they often in this case will have a Nijai, and it's totally separate from my criminal or rough stuff life. And I use that as like a recharge, and it recharges me because it's separate and I don't combine them.
Oh, like Vito, I think.
That's one method. Another method is this person is going to help me be stronger. They're going to help me think better, plot better, organize better, know who our friends and enemies are better, and basically kind of help me hunt. In that case, they often will choose to go double-directed, but that's not unique to criminals. Naiji basically choose that tactic in most, I would say, hard endeavors. They're like, this is hard. I'm going to either double up on a hunter with me, or I'm going to keep like a safe shack of inspiration, and then I'll visit and not let anyone know is there, so they can't get to it. There are other options, but those are by far the two most popular that Najee tend to do. Or actually, no. Option 3, I go alone. Everyone else is a weakness. They'll just get in my way. So yeah, I go solo so I can't get hurt. I go with another hunter so they're tough like me. Or I keep like a special area of like, Nijai kind of stuff, which can be seen as soft, but I keep it hidden or protected from the rest of the world I normally occupy.
Yeah, there's another thing too. Some Niji I've seen.
I'm sorry. Next to the assisting, did I say one more? I take it back. There's also Nijai that really actually get rough and tumble and like the action, and they're actually also cool with the Najee being rough while they're in the proximity. Mm-hmm. But they tend to actually be maybe unhealthy, or if they are healthy, they tend to have very strong Z and Vi and like a lot of scary shit.
All right. Well, I know. I was just to say one more thing is that also some Niji. I mean, we've seen this on the celebrities. I mean, some seem to go with like V Alpha. Is that just?
Oh, thank you. Very good point. Thank you, Mitchell. Yes, like there is.
Vijay and Vizai, I've seen some of them.
Yeah, they actually go the route. Thank you. They go the route of basically I like to impress people with my clothing and my car and my house and so forth, and so they basically want a trophy. Yeah. And so in that case, they actually use their mate as just another object of being like overtly impressive in a kind of like visual way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of basketball players, a lot of music artists, rappers.
Actually.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are like that. They go the route of like, I'm gonna keep like a pinup doll Vijay with me to sort of like make.
Or like Shy V, like Jay Z. Well, that's Nij, but still.
Yeah. Still, yeah.
Same thing, kind of.
Yeah.
Same principle.
All right, well, it is 7:30, and now I think we did a great job. We answered all the questions that people were asking. I think we did it well. Is there anything before we sign off?
I'm sure there's more riffs.
Well, I think we did a good job.
All in a day's work. All
right. If there's nothing else, then we'll call it a night, and I'm going to see if I can't get the rest of that essay done before I get to bed.
That would be good.
That'd be awesome.
I'll have more for you.
Sounds good. I'll keep cracking them out. We'll be through this in no time.
Alrighty.
Good night, everyone. That was good. Good session. I think we get good wisdom out there for the world and learn stuff ourselves.
That's fun.
Agreed. Have an excellent evening.
You too.
Yeah. Great. Good night, guys.